welcome to our first episode of Peaceful Homeschool Podcast. We're excited and we're nervous and we're really happy to be doing this, and we hope this is beneficial to all of you that listen. Today we're going to interview Emma, the amazing Emma. She is the co-host and she's the brains here. So but I'm gonna I thought we'd just kind of talk to her and you could get the background on her, and then the next one will be about me. And
the amazing Beth.
Like, no. So basically I thought it'd be really nice to just kind of go through like your background and how you came to be a homeschool mom. So growing up, like, did you go to public school first off?
I did go to public school.
Okay. And what was your experience like at public school? Did you like public school? Did you not like public school? Was it a mix?
I actually did like public school. I had a good experience there for the most part. I grew up in a small town, so everybody kind of knows everybody. And I mean, it was enjoyable, at least for grade school. And then, you know, middle school happens and high school happens and things just get weird. But I mean, overall, I enjoyed it. I did struggle in the area of being challenged. We had like gate once a week that we would like walk to the middle school from elementary school for like these special classes. And it wasn't enough. It wasn't challenging enough to go one day a week for a few hours to be challenged. And, you know, otherwise we were given basically grade level curriculum to use throughout the rest of the week and just have to do it. So, you know, sometimes that meant you're just sitting at your desk bored because you've already mastered this and, you know, you could do it quickly and then you're just waiting. So that part I did not really care for, but I mean, overall, I enjoyed school. I enjoyed learning. I just wish I had more to learn that was, you know, at the level that I was at each year.
That makes a lot of sense to me. I would totally feel that way too. Okay. So you mentioned that you had like the like you were in the gifted program, right? That's the gifted GATE is the gifted program.
It is. I just don't like to say it because it sounds snooty.
Oh, but we know you, Emma. Snooty. No, just kidding.
So snooty.
It's what you're known for.
Yes, totally.
Did you have any other learning things that were going on? Like, did you struggle with anything else? Like, I mean, being gifted is not necessary. It can be a struggle because you're bored. So, in regular classes, but any other things like focus issues or anything? I know you don't have any.
No, that's not at all. I mean, probably the biggest struggle for me was that I would read something long enough to learn it and then test on it. And then I didn't need to retain it because it wasn't, for the most part, wasn't, you know, things I was interested in. And because it wasn't very exciting to learn, all I did was learn it long enough to test. If I got an A, I could forget it and not, you know, never have to reference it in my brain again.
Yeah. That totally makes sense to me. I remember that happening a lot, just how to get through it, and it didn't matter necessarily if it stayed in there.
Right.
Okay. So now, like, let's see. How many kids do you have?
I have 3 kids. And they're old.
They're old. How old are they?
The oldest is 19, the middle is 17, and the youngest is 11. And they've all been homeschooled since day one. So basically forever.
That's awesome. Okay, so are you a full-time homeschool parent or are you working?
Well, I am a working full-time parent, but I don't work outside the home. No, I am not employed outside the home for money. But throughout the past 19 years with my kids, I have had various jobs where I've worked from home, just to earn some extra income. And I've also run a giant homeschool group for well over a decade and, just always done a lot of great fun things, but not actually being employed for any real money outside of homeschooling.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, in those different things that you were doing, like the part-time type things or work at home things while you were homeschooling, what adjustments were you able to make to be able to accommodate homeschooling at the same time you were trying to get those things done, because you were very busy during those times?
It's true. I would either do my work at night once I had kids down to bed, which I was pretty consistent throughout their younger years, especially when I needed them to be able to go to bed at a good time, to make sure that they were in bed at a decent time. So I had time to get any work done that I needed to do. I could also do it in the morning before they got up, or while they were sitting and doing their schoolwork or doing a big art project or a science project. Once I had kind of gotten them going on that, I could sit and do my work as well. So it kind of worked that we could all be there, together working on whatever we had to work on.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay, so did you always want to homeschool your kids, or when did you decide that that was going to be the path for your family?
My husband and I talked about it a lot because neither of us had very thrilling opportunities in public school. We both went to public school, and both of us recognized that we didn't really want to raise our kids for the first 5 years and put so much energy and effort and heart into how we were raising them and what they were exposed to, what they were seeing and hearing and watching and reading and learning. And then at age 5, say, okay, you're ready, and send them off to public school where we no longer were the biggest influence in their lives. And so we decided before we had kids that that's what we would probably do. And once we had kids, we're like, that's definitely what we're going to do. No choice. We felt like we had for us, there was no option. That's what we would do.
Yeah,
And so we did it ever since.
that's awesome. Okay, do your children have any special needs?
Yes. I do have some kids with special needs. I have a child that has autism. She also has several specific learning disabilities. She has a lot of things that make it difficult for her to learn information and retain information. She is amazing. Let me say that 100,000 times. She is amazing.
Yes,
she amazes me in so many ways every single day. It's ridiculous. However, it does make it very tricky for her in terms of education. And I think that if she was in public school, that she would struggle a lot. She would struggle with not only educational issues, but with social issues, and, whether they would put her into a special day class or whatever, that would be very hard. I also have a child with OCD, and some years the OCD has been very overwhelming for our family, just depending on the compulsions of that year. Luckily, we've gotten through a lot of that, so it is very minimal now compared to how it has been some years in the past. Again, that would be something that would be tricky to deal with in a public school setting, and probably socially as well in a public school setting. And then I have one kid who's pretty typical and, whatever. But again, homeschooling, if any of them were in public school, I don't even know, our life would look so much different. And I'm not sure, how that would have affected them because of the different needs of each of them and because they are all so different. My daughter with autism has been in therapies for the large majority of her life. And her therapist have often said, the right way she's been raised and the environment in which she's been raised and the education she's received has been so beneficial to her because she knows she's amazing. She knows
Mhm.
she is beautiful. She knows all of those things that had she gone to public school and been put into a special day class with a lot of kids with emotional disturbances, as well as other issues, that she may no longer think those things. But luckily, she's come through it all with all of that intact, and she's amazing.
She is amazing. I
Oh,
agree
thanks.
completely. Okay, I'm not gonna
I know, I'm not going to cry. We might both be crying.
cry. Has extended family always been supportive, or were they resistant to your kids being homeschooled?
Um, we didn't really know any homeschoolers at all. And so I think the idea that we were going to homeschool seemed pretty foreign to our families. Um, Actually, I take that back. I did know one homeschooler growing up. I didn't really know them, but I knew of their family in our town. And it was kind of like they were always hiding out or whatever. You didn't really see them. You might occasionally see them, and it was kind of like, hey, that's the homeschoolers, and nothing like it is today. But I think that it was not, 19 years ago, it wasn't what as many people for sure were doing. And maybe they thought we were a little bit crazy. I'm pretty sure they all thought that soon we would put our kids in public school, that maybe we would homeschool our oldest for kindergarten, or maybe for the first couple of years, or maybe just until middle school. But eventually they got the idea that for sure we were homeschooling them forever, because now our oldest has graduated, and the other kids are in 5th grade and 11th grade. So I think by now everyone's long since realized, like, oh, that's what they do. It's all good. And everybody's come to terms with it and seems pretty, seems to think we've done an okay job with it. But for sure, I think in the beginning, people just, both families, probably thought we were a little bit weird, which,
Yeah,
whatever. It's okay.
totally. Yeah. Okay. So, what kind of homeschooler would you say that you are? And all the different kinds of homeschoolers. There could be a relaxed homeschooler, a work burker, a work, a work booker. I don't know if that's not really right. Anyway, public school at home types, unschoolers, classical, lots of learning center classes. Like, what kind would you think you fell into most of the time?
I'd say for sure eclectic, because we do a lot of different things. We've tried a lot of different things because we've been at it so long. Um, we activity based, if we want to call it that. Um, for sure, that would probably be the one that most accurately describes what we do. We tend to have a basic workbook, like as a spine that we work from, and for each subject, and it's not an all-in-one, because that doesn't really seem to work too well. If your kid is reading at one level and doing math at another level, and they're really excelling at science and history, I'm not going to keep them all at the same level. So
Right.
whatever level they are working at, whatever ability level they are at for each subject, then we have a basic workbook for each of those. And beyond that, we do tons and tons of hands-on learning based around whatever it is they're learning about. Um, we do tons of activities. We do tons of just field trips and classes and educational things. Um, we're definitely not public school at homers. We're not unschoolers in the traditional sense, in that we do have some workbook work, and um, we do enjoy learning center classes and those types of things, but they don't do our core work. We do our core work at home, and then everything else is just enrichment, fun, and really builds upon whatever it is we're working on at that time.
Do you feel that you started out as a homeschool parent when you first started considering yourself homeschooling? I mean, looking back, like I was homeschooling really from the very beginning, but I didn't
Right.
know that I was. I didn't consider it that.
Yeah.
But once you officially started homeschooling, has your style changed since you first started? Or did you kind of know how you wanted to do it and kind of just it always was that way for you?
It mostly was always this way for us. For sure, we have gone through different things that we've tried. Like, oh, we read about this. It'd be really cool. Let's try that. And so we try it for a bit, and we're like, oh, that doesn't really work for us. Like, yeah, we really want to do this. let's try this classical education for a while. And then we're like, oh, we're much more relaxed. And it does not work for us. We have tried so many different things that I feel like for sure we've evolved, somewhat through over time. But mostly since the beginning, we've started with a basic workbook and just, lots of hands-on stuff to go along with that. So I'd say for the most part, we probably have stayed about the same, even though we have gone through, trying different things and kind of trying a little bit of a schedule or a different rhythm, or we're going to do things this certain way. And in the end, we end up right back to where we started. And, we're like, oh, this is our style. This is what we do.
Okay. If there was anything, if you could go back in time to when you first started officially homeschooling, what would you tell yourself? Is there anything you'd want to tell yourself? Or it sounds kind of like you kind of always knew the way you wanted to handle it and kind of went with that. But is there anything that you'd say that do this differently?
I would say for sure, like in the beginning, I did set up like a really great homeschool room. And it was so cute with all these posters. And I just thought, we're going to sit in here, we're going to do school at this little table, and it'll be great. Oh my gosh, get real. That's not how life works. So then I quickly realized like, oh, I need to be close to the kitchen because I'm prepping food while kids are doing workbooks. I'm prepping food while they are, doing an art project. I'm prepping food all the time, whether that's breakfast or lunch or dinner. I don't want to be stressed at the moment. If we sat all day in a homeschool room and then came out when it was time for dinner wouldn't be ready for us. So instead, we needed to be close to the kitchen. So very quickly, we found that the really super cute homeschool room upstairs did not work for us. So we moved everything, and we basically had, and we always still say it's our homeschool area because it houses all of our homeschool stuff. And we always have a table there so that we can keep whatever random projects we are currently working on, which might be like dissecting owl pellets or making a volcano or whatever other thing we have going on. It can stay on that table and not have to get moved aside to be able to eat dinner every day. Also gross eating next to the owl pellet. So for sure, we like to have, I know, for sure, we like to have a homeschool area with all our stuff to be housed and then a table in there for us to keep our stuff, set up. So that's probably the biggest thing, is that you do not need some super fancy homeschool area. It's not necessarily not necessarily at all. So I'd say for sure I would tell myself, like, don't even bother going through all of that hassle to do that. Like, no, don't do it.
I agree. That would be my advice. That completely. I totally agree with that. I'm guilty also of
The room was so cute. It was so cute.
I know. Okay, so the big question that everyone has: how do you properly socialize your children?
Oh my gosh, that question. It's ridiculous because honestly, when you've been homeschooling as long as you and I have been homeschooling our kids, you're just like, are you serious, people? This is not a thing. And of course, like, I ran this giant homeschool group. We moved, last year. We're still not all the way moved, but mostly. And where we lived, I had this huge giant homeschool group. My kids love to take classes. I love for them to do things to pique their interests and to just see what can really find, like, what can they really see is going to spark their curiosity, is going to, ignite a passion in them that I maybe didn't know they had. So I've always been like, we're going to go out and we're going to do these things, whatever. So between having a homeschool group, going to classes, being involved in, making sure that homeschooling stays legal in our state. So advocating for ourselves, just so many things, time with family, time with friends. Like, no, are you serious? No, you properly socialize them by taking them out into the world and having them live in the world, not just with, 39-year-old kids, but taking them out and having them play at park day with kids who are small up to kids who are teenagers, having them all work together to come up with what game they're going to play that week or whatever, like you take them out into the world. You take them to the library and the grocery store, and every single place you go, your kids are there and they're learning and they're meeting people at church or at park day or at class or wherever it is that they are. Like, no, people, no, you don't have to worry about the socialization question. You properly socialize it by taking them into the into the world where they will be living as adults. So you hope they learn to function in the world. That's what you do.
Okay. I'm sorry I started laughing. I started laughing because it sounded, the way it came out was 39-year-old kids and not.
Yes, they need to be with 39-year-old kids.
So sorry. That was really silly of me, but it made me laugh. So there we go.
39-year-olds, 30.
Yes.
9-year-olds. 9-year-olds, which there are 30. There we go.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. So.
You're welcome.
Okay. So what would a weekly routine look like for your family?
Of course, this has changed many, many times throughout the years because I went from having, just one kid who was of school age, but all 3 kids who were learning. And then, well, in the beginning, I didn't even have a 3rd kid. And then as we added kids, an extra kid in, it has changed. It's changed as my kids became more capable of managing their time, more capable of managing their workload, more capable of pursuing their passions, needing less direction. Currently, I have a 17-year-old and an 11-year-old. So our weekly routine, well, again, we're relaxed homeschoolers. So our routine is definitely like a routine, not a schedule. It is what works for us for that week. My girls recently did say, hey, it would be helpful right now to try having a schedule where we know what to do throughout the hours of the day. And I was like, whoa, okay, well, let's try that. So currently that is what we are doing, which, who knows, we'll maybe just do it for the school year or maybe not. So our routine for sure this semester looks like on Mondays, we sit down and we get some schoolwork done. We have chores to be done. Included in our daily schedule is reading a book, is playing outside, exercising, some sort of, prayer or meditation or doing something kind for others, time with a sibling or a parent. And then, depending on the day, today was a Monday and we had art class today. On Tuesdays, we have co-op all day from like 10 to 3. During which my kids get to choose which classes they are in and get to hang out with friends and visit. Just depends on the week. Wednesdays, we have basically a typical schedule at home. We also volunteer at an aquarium. And then Thursdays, we have homeschool group. So we get together with our group after getting some stuff done at home. Fridays, my son does not have college. So we all 3 kind of just do however, whatever the day holds. Again, as each year throughout my kids' lives, because we've been doing this so long, our weekly routine will look different. It will look different, which classes are available that semester, what my kids are interested in that semester, what the time of year is. We like to school a lot in the summer because the weather is, kind of gross and hot, and there are people everywhere. And we don't really want to go out a lot when there are people everywhere. We want to go out when there's nobody at the park and there's nobody at the, wherever we want to go on vacation or whatever. So we tend to get a lot of homeschooling, a lot of our sit down homeschooling work done over the summer. And then we can kind of, enjoy ourselves more during the school year.
Awesome. Overall, what is your experience of homeschooling? Are you happy? Are your kids happy? And is your spouse happy?
Oh my gosh, yes. Like are you happy? That's a big question. But yes, I could not imagine living this life a different way. I could not. I couldn't imagine not having been there for the formative years of my kids growing up. not having had us be the biggest influence on our kids, not having had them, you know, I don't know, like, honestly, I cannot imagine anything different for our kids. And same with my husband. He would agree. Like, we've never had a time, no matter how hard financially or, during years where we've had a lot of stressors or a lot of big life changes, we've never said, let's just put our kids in public school. We've always said, well, we'll figure out a way to make this other thing work so that we can continue our lifestyle. It's not something we would change. When I ask my kids, they all say they'll probably homeschool their kids because they can't imagine anything else. I mean, we love it. It truly is a life for us. It is not the way we, sit down with our kids from 8 to 3, Monday through Friday during the school year, because also we don't do that. Our kids, learn anywhere and everywhere all throughout the year. But for us, it's not about schoolwork. It's about a life, teaching our kids in the way we want them to, be able to learn and grow. And we want to be there for it, for the whole thing. We want to be there with them, and we want to experience all of those things with them. And yeah, for sure, happy. We would not choose anything else.
Awesome. Okay, so what would be your top, if you have them, top 3 favorite ways to teach your kids? Experiences, favorite curriculum, or online programs? Like, what would be your, if you have a top 3 ways? And I know you mentioned a few already.
Yeah, top 3 for sure would be, well, unit studies are a big one. Gosh, we have done so many amazing unit studies throughout my kids' lives. Like, for sure, that is a huge favorite for me, where we can really delve in whatever it is that, we have an interest in, or something to go along with the seasons or a holiday or whatever. And just to really like get in there and learn about it in so many hands-on ways, and to do a big group trip with our homeschool group, that's relevant to whatever it is we're learning. Like, for sure, unit studies, I'd say, are probably the top for me. Other ways, just definitely any hands-on learning and hands-on experiences that we could do, including vacations. We always do learning on our vacations, and I don't mean we always do sit-down schoolwork on our vacations. I mean, we always make sure that we include experiences that offer a lot of education in some way. And whether that's, we took a trip that was halfway across the country, and we went to so many national parks and so many things, so many places where my kids could learn. We just always try to include that in whatever it is that we're doing. I'm not a big fan of online programs, although my girls do enjoy some online programs that have learning, as long as they have fun along with them.
Yeah, totally. Fun is just the way to learn. It's my favorite way to learn.
Yes.
Okay, what advice would you have for a brand new homeschool family? What would you think would be the best thing that they, well, whatever. What let me start that over. What advice do you have for new homeschoolers?
My advice would be, don't try to make it like public school at home. Prioritize the relationships within your family over a strict academic schedule, or over bookwork or whatever. Recognize that it is not worth damaging your relationship with your child if they are struggling and can't move forward with their bookwork that day, or if they need a break or whatever. It is not worth it. Be flexible. Recognize the value and the education in learning life skills, in learning about our world, in learning from everywhere you go that doesn't necessarily have to do with a workbook. And find your tribe. Sorry, that's my other big one. Yeah. Find your tribe. It's super important. Homeschooling on your own, I can't even imagine. That would be no fun.
Yeah. When your child reaches adulthood, how do you hope that they're living their life?
So when my kids grow up, what I really want for them is I want them to be happy first and foremost. I want them to already know what their passions are, and I would hope that they can use those passions to make a life for themselves, whether that's a career doing what they love or volunteering in a way that they love. I hope that they already will know their passions and that they will be able to pursue them, toward making a living, toward having the life that they want. My son said to me recently that his week is filled every week with his passion, which is music. And so he's able to, um, every day in some way, spend time in his passion. So, he has a class on Monday in college that's guitar. He has a music theory class on Tuesday. He also teaches class at our co-op on Tuesdays, two different classes. On Wednesdays, he has another guitar class. Then he has band rehearsal at our church. On Thursdays, he has music theory class again. And, he's in every sense of the word being able to live his dream. And since he's only 19, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is what I want for you. On Sundays, he plays in our band at church. It's basically like every day he gets to spend doing what he loves. And I would hope that for each of my kids that that's what their adulthood would look like, that they can fulfill their passions and turn them into, spending time doing what they love.
Awesome. Do you think that homeschooling has brought peace to your family?
Absolutely. For sure, we've had years that are harder than others, in different ways, as will happen being a parent, no matter what. Being a person. But I think that the peace that we're able to have because we homeschool, because we don't have, a rush schedule that we have to get off to every day, that our kids don't, if we want to stay up late and do something, we can. If we want to sleep in late, we can. If we want to, like I said, vacation when there aren't people at the beach or at Disneyland or wherever it is we're going, all of those things we're able to do in a way that is more laid back, that is overall more peaceful, that we're able to work together every day, as a team to get chores done, to have dinner made, to do whatever it is that needs to be done. And just having each other there and not having to wonder, what my kids are going through each day at school. I think that me being there and my husband being there as our kids have gone through things and dealing with friends and any issues that have arisen, just us being able to be there together to work things out. I mean, all of those things just create a life that really does feel peaceful.
Thank you. Okay, so for the last question, what is the weirdest question you or your child has been asked by someone about homeschooling? Or statement, not even, it could be a question or statement.
I mean, for sure, I've been asked a billion times about socialization. Like, I'd say probably the biggest one is, do my kids have any friends? Or do they ever see any people? I'm like, I don't keep them locked up in a cage. What do you people think homeschooling means? Like, what the heck? But the funniest thing probably is, when you're out at a store, and it happened a lot more when my kids were younger because homeschooling wasn't as prevalent then, but people always are like, oh, why aren't you in school? And so my kids would, say, oh, we're homeschooled and, whatever. But probably the funniest thing was that somebody at Costco, a man was like, oh, why aren't you in school? And they're like, oh, we're homeschooled. And so the man decides he's going to start quizzing my kids, and he's asking them a bunch of questions. And then he finally says to my son, who was like maybe 5 at the time, he said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And my son's like, an alien. I'm like, oh gosh, he wants to be an alien when he grows up. Now that man thinks homeschoolers are all crazy. And I was like, an astronaut. He said he means he wants to be an astronaut. My son's like, oh yeah, I mean an astronaut. I'm like, oh my gosh, look, like homeschoolers getting a bad rap now. Like we want to grow up to be aliens.
I find that hilarious because one, it's a funny answer, but
Yes.
two, like, I don't understand why people think it's appropriate to start assessing a child's education if they're homeschooled when they wouldn't do that to a child that goes to a public school. I've never seen that happen before. Well, let me test you. Like,
Yes.
that's weird.
I know.
Call the
I totally
homeschoolers
agree.
weird.
Let's start quizzing all kids that we meet at the grocery store. We don't care how you're schooled. We want to quiz all of you. Do you know when the War of 1812 was?
Oh, sometimes the biggest question, though, that the kids are stumped on is, what grade are you in? And they're like, what?
Okay, yes, that has happened to all of my kids, and sometimes still happens to my kids. And I'll be like, remember, we said you were in 5th grade now. Like, yeah, they don't remember because it doesn't matter. They're like, yeah, but
it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I'm working in 6th grade on reading and I'm working in 4th grade on math, and they don't know. It makes no difference to them.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know.
Thank you, Emma, for being our first interview on Homeschool Peaceful Homeschool Podcast.
Okay. You're welcome, Beth.
Peaceful Homeschool Podcast. If you liked this podcast, please like it or follow it or subscribe, however you're listening to this. If you think that other people will benefit, please share. And you can find us we have blogs, we have blog posts and some interesting things. If you need more help, you can comment. Let us know if okay, I'm butchering this. If there's anything else you want to learn about or hear, or topics you want us to hit, please comment and let us know. Check out the website at peacefulhomeschool.com.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. We're going to get this down at some point. We're going to be pro soon.
Yes.
Okay.
And if you have any questions, we have to say that too.
If you have any questions, comment, or you can find us on Facebook and comment there. I don't know. I might have to just redo that with a script.